Nataya. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so excited to be talking to you about lots of wonderful things. But first, I want you to introduce yourself, please, so everyone can know a little more about you.
So I am from Chicago. I grew up here. I'm originally from the west side of Chicago. Now I live on the south side, so I'm going through a big transition right now. I am actually working at a retail store right now, and then on the side, I practice yoga. And also on the side of that, I really have a passion for animals, and so I actually dog sit for cats and dog and well, pet sit basically, dogs and cats. So yeah, I just kind of dabble in a lot of things because the cost of living in Chicago is like going up. But
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually practicing yoga, I want to be like a yoga teacher and stuff like that. And kind of just work from my own business and have my own things and stuff like that. So yeah.
You have two very distinct experiences. One
Mhm.
is with an employer, and the other is you are your own. You're a freelancer, you're an entrepreneur. Um, so, speaking from both of those points of view, um, I want to talk about your hair.
Mhm.
And specifically, I want to talk about the Crown Act. And the Crown Act is something that I knew nothing about until 2019 when the state of New York, it was an article that I read on LinkedIn, and it said, yay, congratulations, New York passed the Crown Act.
Yeah.
And my enthusiasm behind that was, well, yay, shouldn't everyone be able to wear their hair the way they want to? And it didn't take long for me to scratch that surface and find out, oh, wow, this is discrimination that is in our faces and nobody has a clue. So the Crown Act, to benefit anyone who's listening, the Crown Act is an acronym, and it stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. And I have never in my entire life, either as an employee, as a candidate, or as a professional, have I ever been questioned on my hair.
Mm.
And that surprised me in 2019 that a law passed. So, because I've never had direct experience with this, I'd like to hear your story or stories of your first experience with hair discrimination and employment.
So first, I want to start off to say that hair is, for me, the description in my personality of me. It's my description. If you describe me, you probably would describe my hair first before you look at me. That is a part of who I am. My hair is a part of who I want to be. So my first experience actually applying to a security job where professional, everybody has to be professional, dress professional, look professional. And they would like us to, wear the uniforms, wear the shoes that they have. So my hair was actually covered in a scarf because, I also, you don't know, I also am Muslim. So certain things that, certain jobs, especially in cities, you apply and it's just, you don't know until you walk into that office for your interview and they're like, well, what can you do with your hair? So for me,
That's exactly what they said. What can you do with your
yeah,
hair?
yeah, what are you going to do with your scarf? So it was one day I was actually hired for the job. I wore my scarf and they were like, well, you can't wear scarves in this job. This job requires a lot of professionalism. This job requires you to have your hair in a neat way. And it's also, I had locks too. So my locks were not as neat. So I would put my scarf on too as well. So I was offended. I was like, oh, why does hair have anything to do with my professional look? And I really didn't get a straight answer because I'm talking to our human resources person. So she really didn't understand why this security company had that established, but for their jurisdiction, they believe that their principle, their policy was they believe that professional attire also has to go in how your hair looks. So I asked her for a religious exemption, and I had to fill out two pages of reasons why I had to wear a scarf over my head and why my hair could not be neater. I know that some security companies today actually require you, maybe back when I was working in the security company, I found out a few months later that they require you to either cut off your locks as well because they're not neat enough. So they're not deemed as neat or as professional. But fast forward to my situation, I had to fill out two papers explaining why I needed to have a religious exemption, what religion I come from, and who was my spiritual leader. Very offensive to me because that was like, okay, you have to get verification from my spiritual leader why I have to cover my hair. So it was a lot of things going on in my head at that time, but I filled it out and they put it through the system. I got the religious exemption, but that was my experience that I had kind of around my first time that really just made me think like in my appearance and just being offended about who I am.
Exactly. I have so many questions that are screaming in my head. Okay, so the first person, was that a hiring manager? Was that a recruiter?
That was a human resources hiring manager, yes.
And was it a person of color or not?
No. And I don't really like to say that. I don't really like to say racist.
I know. But here, my opinion on that is it's simply a lack of education.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. So let's go back to, why were you wearing your hair in dreads, in locks?
I decided to lock my hair because, and from my standpoint, it was a style for me that I felt like was going to connect me more to myself. When you have to wake up every day and worry about what style you put it in, it stresses you out. It just stops what you want to do in your day. It just kind of gives you no confidence. So I thought to myself, like, hey, why don't I just lock it to get spiritually in tune with myself, to just do something bold to where I feel more confident. I love me.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to force me to love me. So I decided to lock my hair. Now, everybody else's decisions is different on why they lock their hair, but this is my reasoning because I wanted to be in tune with myself. I wanted to love myself, and I want to be able to wake up in the morning and just not think about what I'm going to do to my hair. Especially as a person of color, a lot of us have different hair textures, and which some are easier to deal with and some are harder to deal with. And I'm on the spectrum of hard to deal with hair texture. So I have to make the choice to make the harder decisions on what I'm going to do with my hair because it's more difficult. It's a more difficult strain of hair. So that was my decision.
So for those who don't know, my hair, I believe, is classified as a 1. And some stylists don't like to, I don't subscribe to the 1, 2, 3, 4 A, B, C. But that's kind of standard at this point. I personally like hair grows down, out, or up. But that also doesn't respect your natural hair texture. And
yes, exactly.
So what's your number? Are you a 4C? Are you a 4A?
I'm a 4C. 4C, yes.
Which is the most fragile of all hair types.
Mm-hmm.
And people really need to understand that. So going back to why you had you put your hair into locks, was it you choose locks? A personal choice.
I chose locks because I don't know. My heart really told me like, hey, this is the time for you to lock your hair and do something that that not everybody knows a lot about, because I can get my hair done and I can go to the salon every month or two, but not every salon artist, every salon person understands how to deal with 4C hair. So
Exactly.
4C is actually the hair texture that can be locked, really. That is more commonly locked. So I definitely did my research before I decided to do it. And so I would put my hair in twists, and I would just look in the mirror and say, hey, if my hair is in twists, maybe it'll look good locked. Something that can stay within a protective style. And I don't have to always come back and pick with it and figure out what I'm going to do with it. I can actually put my hair will do what it wants. So that was my decision. And not a lot of people are educated in locks or 4C hair. So my strain of hair is kind of harder to deal with in a sense. And it takes a lot of conditioning, a lot of detangling and everything like that. So that's why I made that decision.
Exactly. You have not only one of the most fragile hair types, but also the most time intensive. Oh my gosh, there's so much that goes into caring for textured hair. And it just kind of, in my uneducated, inexperienced opinion, from 4A to 4C, that's like an earthquake from an 8 to a 9. There's a lot in between. And that comes with a lot of misunderstanding as well. So I love the variety that you can have. I do understand that employers don't appreciate or celebrate that. So let's talk about how that makes you feel. Then what do you do with your hair? What do I do now if I can't lock it? If I can't put it in Bantu knots? If I can't,
I felt less than. I really do feel that if I have to come into a company and worry about how my hair looks, I was never looked at as an equal. And that's what bothers me, because I actually have another experience, not really the same, but I worked in a professional environment where I was at JP Morgan Chase as a bank teller. And being there around a lot of professional people, the attire, the clothes, everything, it kind of just made me look at myself like, hey, these people are very, very different from you because they grew up in different sides of town. Their clothes are more expensive, and you're sitting here, you're kind of in like what you can afford professional attire. And that situation kind of made me feel like this is two different. They're higher than me and I'm lower. And then going into another job where, okay, my hair is a problem. Me wearing my scarves or hijabs is a problem. Again, I feel less than. So right. It's those situations definitely have to be talked about. It has to be something done about that, because it's not really something we should go in for the future generations and for the generation younger than me. It's gonna have to change. It really is. You can't have someone feeling like this their entire lives in different generations. Like, we're in a whole different time.
Totally.
This is not like the past. This is a different time. Everything should be completely different than it was from then. So that's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about when you were little? Chicago, that's a diverse city. When you were little, did you feel, I went to a parochial school, so we had a lot of rules. But I don't know if going to school, if you had, certain hair rules you had to abide by or comply with. Yeah. So
some rules, actually, in my elementary school, I went to a predominantly white school. I've been through many different schools before, but these particular schools that I went to, they did look at me as differently. Just growing up in that environment kind of just got me used to it already, because, I went to a high school and an elementary school that was predominantly Caucasian. but I did have situations where teachers would treat me kind of differently because of my hair texture and because of my skin color. And it's probably not intentionally. It's just that if you're not used to being around a certain type of, I think it's if you're not used to being around a certain type of environment or with a different type of, race of people, you're kind of just like, you really don't understand how to appropriately teach them. I had like a lot of learning issues where my Caucasian teacher couldn't help me.
Mm-hmm.
But she can help the other students. She just didn't understand how to approach me. She didn't understand how to teach me. And it was just like, okay, kind of uncomfortable. Like, okay, why can't you teach me the way you're teaching them? Why are you talking to me differently? I think it's just a subconscious thing. I don't think people are doing it intentionally. It's just very subconscious. So I don't want to really attack her on that. But I really had a deep understanding about different levels of people, different races of people when I was younger, because I was already immersed into that environment. So from when I was younger, this has been something I've been, been through for a long time, and been seasoned in just being uncomfortable, felt like an unequal, and it's just a subconscious thing. It's not like, oh, I can just tell them like you're being racist, because they don't understand. It's just, no, they're subconsciously doing something and they don't understand why. I think that's a big subject some people should tap into too. It's not just, I feel like I don't like you. It's, I really don't know how to teach you. I really don't know how to approach you. I really think you're different, That's what it is. It's lack of education, like you said.
Exactly. That's what kills me about when I found out about the Crown Act. That at what point did your hair improve or hinder your work performance? At school, in corporate, it hasn't. It hasn't. But it's in the books. It's in the people policies. And it's nicely hidden where you have to sign, I agree to comply with all the regulations, blah, 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 blah. And let's be honest, white people are going to totally flip through, overlook, overread anything that doesn't apply to them. And the majority of corporate policy deals with white people. That's it. And I think that with education and better understanding, not even the religious aspect, but just respecting human differences. I look different from you. We have so many other differences between that, but there are so many other similarities that we need to bring together on those. And it always comes back to education. Find out why your hair is the way it is and why you care for it the way that you do. I feel that with the Crown Act, any organization that has any type of hair discrimination in it, it goes so much deeper than that. As a people strategist, I say on the absolute surface, there's a lot of more negotiation that needs to happen when you're negotiating your salary for your job. You've gone through the recruiting process and then you're on to that. Yes, we'll give you this if you give us that. And that's a huge one. Because if we talk about the amount of maintenance that goes into textured hair, natural, ethnic, textured hair is amazing. White people don't have to deal with it at all. We wash our hair every day, if not every other day. It's a quick, I can just cut a comb or brush through it. I'd be pulling out chunks if I had any other hair than this. And this is the only style that corporate policy adheres to. So there are so many talking points on this, and to know that you're so young and you started with this in education and now it's gone into employment. This is why we need to have the discussion. You talk about community. You talk about your self-value. You talk about how you respect yourself, how you're respected in your work environment. There are so many talking points on this that are, they need to be brought to the surface.
I'm about to be 23, yes.
Yeah. I'm 55 and a half. Totally different generations. But we're bridging on to the next one. And that's what I really want to, to give hope, to say, it's not just always going to be this shitty little us against them. It's we rise. And how do we rise? We're going to talk about it. So,
what I would like to see differently is as generations between, like you said, you're 55, I'm 22. These two generations of people actually heal, actually look deep within themselves and say, okay, there's certain things that we shouldn't have to keep doing anymore. It is a different time. It is a different era. We're going into the future of technological advances, of different mindsets, intellectual, very high intellectual capacities. This new generation is going to bring in a lot of, intelligence into this new, human that we're being, and we're moving into more of love. We're moving into more of unity. So I think that, since we're moving into those new aspects, a lot of these requirements and policies should be dropped, because we're realizing that does not make the person. Your attire, your looks does not make the person anymore. It's actually what's on the inside. The commonalities we have between each other is love, it's empathy. It's if I see a white Caucasian who's homeless, are you still going to give them $1, or are you still going to buy them food? I still do it. To me, it really doesn't matter anymore. It's in a hard time like this, especially when I was asked about my hair and my scarves and stuff like that. It was COVID. And I really feel like in these hard times where we're losing people, where people are going through very hard struggles, fighting COVID and fighting pneumonia and all this stuff that's going on, we really need to just come together as the people and say, cut the crap. We don't really need to look at hair and scarves anymore and attire. It's really about your work ethic. It's really about who you are and how you can make this business better, or how you can be your own entrepreneur and make your own policies and be your own person and be who you are. I am that I am. Be who you are, So that's what I want to see moving forward in the next few years, maybe the next few months. It's really not that hard.
It's not. You're right.
It's not. So, if we can move into that as the generation, as the people, as, to bridge the gap between the other generations who are older than us, everything will be okay. We don't have to no longer feel unequal. I think that's one of the last things now, today, of why we're feeling unequal. It's the hair, it's the attire, it's the appearance. Nowadays, we need to let that go. It's one of the last things we need to let go.
Exactly.
It's probably a few more, but I think this one is the easiest.
Exactly. Embrace the differences. That's the beauty of it all.
Definitely makes the difference.
Nataya, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing your story. We're going to be having more of these, and eventually we'll have groups, and we'll have a whole window of lots of people talking about their natural hair, and we're bringing it out. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
11 states have passed the anti-discrimination on hair, and I'm happy we have 8 at this point, because in 2019 there are only 2. So we've made progress, but we also have more states to go through. So thank you so much for sharing, and we're going to continue our talks.
Hey, bye.